What is an effective coach? As a former 11-year pro and Pac-10 Offensive Player of the Year, I'm going to let you know my opinion next in the film. Hey everybody, Mike Pulaski here, Elite Athletes TV and EliteAthletesTV.com. I'm the quarterback's coach, but I'm also an 11-year pro quarterback and former Pac-10 Offensive Player of the Year. And I watch coaches as they coach youth athletes now all the time. And sometimes I get overjoyed. I love it. I love watching it. I see the passion. I see the kids loving it. And it makes me really proud to be part of the sport. And other times, it makes me cringe. Because I watch coaches approach this game as if they're trying to dictate it to kids and watch them kind of take some of the joy out of it. I'm going to give you my opinion of what a good coach is for a youth football player. First off, I want to give you a quote that I heard from a really good friend of mine who said he actually got the quote from Bob Ladouceur, the De La Salle legend of a head coach. If you can't teach, you can't coach. Our jobs as coaches is to pay it forward. We are trying to bring the sport that we love to athletes that are just learning it for the first time. So many times coaches forget that we know so much more about the game than the kids that we're trying to teach. And just because they hear it once doesn't mean they're going to pick it up. I remember me as a young kid, I had ADHD like crazy. I had to hear it 5, 6, 7 times and rep it out before I fully grasped a concept. So always remember that and take that with you to practice. If you can't teach, you can't coach. So make sure that when you step on that football field, you are a teacher first. That's your job. Teach the game to the young athlete. Secondly, it doesn't matter how much you know. What matters is how much you can teach your team, your players. You can know everything in the world about the game of football, but if you can't get it across to kids in a way that they can understand it, in bite-sized pieces that they can digest, then you're not teaching. And it goes back to my last point. You have to be able to get your knowledge out from you and into them. Again, I said, what we are doing as coaches is we are paying it forward. We had the great privilege of playing. We had the great privilege of being around it. And now we want to share that joy. We want to share that pleasure with young athletes. And that in return, by bringing them a benefit of playing this game, brings us back so much joy. So remember to hold that joy, to keep that, because it matters what they know and what you can teach them and what you can impart to them. How do you do that? Well, put yourself in their shoes. Think about it as a young athlete. You have a coach who in high school we're probably the same size as the athletes, maybe even smaller. But at the younger levels, you're towering over this kid. You're telling him something in a language that he has never heard. And you are trying to get him to learn. So put yourself in his shoes. Think about it. And think about how you can get your point across. And if he's not getting it early on, try to reverse engineer it from his position. How do I need to say this so that he can understand it? Not, why is he not getting it? What are my words? What can I do with my words to make this understandable to this young athlete? Does it need an illustration? Do I need to get on the whiteboard? Do I need to do a demonstration? Do we need to do a walkthrough rep? There's a million different ways that you can coach and teach. Some kids are hearing learners. Some kids are visual learners. Some kids have to be active, have to bounce off each other, especially in football. Boys are really, they like to bounce off each other. They like to be physical while they're running. And so doing that, moving, walking through, talking through, as you're teaching something is a great way to get your point across to kids. High school, you can take a little less time because they should be able to pick it up quicker. But at the youth levels, you really got to take a lot of time, and you got to find those kids' learning styles and then take advantage of that. Use it, make it fun, and have a great time with it. I'm going to tell you about coaches who yell. 2 different types of coaches who yell. One is coaches who are frustrated because they can't get their message across. They can't get their point across to the athlete, and as a result, they're frustrated as much at themselves as they are at the athlete because they can't understand why it is that it's so easy for them and the athlete's just not getting it. And so that frustration leads to yelling. Again, go back to if you can't teach, you can't coach. The other coach is the coach who yells because he doesn't know. He doesn't understand the game, and he's trying to ask an athlete to do something that an athlete cannot do. Quick story. When my son was 12 years old, It was his first year playing football, and I had a coach, he was playing defensive end, tell him that he wanted him to compress the line of scrimmage, push that down towards the center, and also keep contained. And that's two completely different assignments for a player. If you want to compress that line of scrimmage, close down those gaps on the inside, keep the open arm free, you can do that. But you can't keep contained if you're trying to compress that line of scrimmage. It's two completely different assignments. And so if you're going to be compressing that line of scrimmage, then you should have a backer on fill or somebody from the outside on force who's going to come in and keep contained. Or you're going to keep contained and you're not going to worry about compressing that line of scrimmage. So anyway, this coach kept yelling at him because he was not doing the job. And I had to step in and say, what are you asking him to do? And he told me the assignment, and I said, that's physically impossible for one player to do. So if you don't know, my point being, don't yell. Make sure you understand what you're asking a player to do and make sure it's reasonable. Super important. Let's talk about when it's okay to yell. When a teammate is being a bad teammate, this doesn't necessarily happen at the youth level. This is more of a high school thing, showing bad integrity. If there's theft amongst the team, if there's bullying among the team, then it's okay to raise your voice. And it's okay to raise your voice in a stern way because that should not be tolerated. A football team and a locker room is a bit of a gladiator mentality. There is a certain amount of toughness that has to be built up by athletes. So they have to be able to take a little of it. And if they are being bad actors, bad behavior, bad performance, not physical performance, but bad emotional performance to their teammates, to other people, being disrespectful, then yeah, it's okay to set them straight. It's also okay to yell when you're yelling to challenge a kid to get the most out of them. Now, when I say yelling, this is yelling in a positive way, letting them know you believe in them, letting them know that you trust them, letting them know that you think there's more in there than what they believe is in there. Sometimes we have to push kids through those barriers, their disbelief, the what ifs. And if you can do that in a positive way, yelling at that point is completely okay. I have used it with athletes in the past, in football, in lacrosse, and I didn't even know the sport there, but being able to challenge and motivate kids that way, not being negative, not trying to tear a kid down, but to challenge and motivate. I'll tell you one more quick story. I was coaching a local high school here, and I was not there for the install that week, but I came out on Wednesday, and our quarterbacks were supposed to make a check, and the coach had said, we're going to check to the bubble. And kid made the wrong check, didn't check it the right way. Coach called him out, started calling him a dummy in front of the whole team. And I saw this going on. I saw the look of bewilderment in the quarterback's eyes. And I said, whoa, stop, hold up. Do you know what the bubble is? And he looked at me with this shocked deer in the headlights look in his eyes. And I asked the whole team, I said, does anybody here know when coach says we're going to check to the bubble what the bubble is? And nobody knew. And so I said, that is not on the quarterback. I don't want to tear him down. It is not on the quarterback. That is on the coaches. If we haven't coached it, we can't expect you to execute it. Yelling in that instance is not okay. As coaches, we have to understand our shortfalls as well. How do we use what I've talked about here today? Well, when you have young athletes, the best way, absolute best way to coach them is to teach first. Remember, can't coach if you can't teach. Then reinforce what you've taught. Go at it a couple different ways. Do it orally first, talk about it, show it on the whiteboard, walk through it. That way you get the visual learners, you get the auditory learners, and you get the physical learners. And then rep it. Reps are your absolute best friend as a coach. And it's okay to stop it and say, nope, that wasn't right. Here's how to do it again. Teach it, reinforce it, rep it. And the more you rep it, the more you teach it, the more you reinforce it, the better your team's going to get it. But the better they understand it, the faster they're going to play. The faster they're going to play, more games you're going to win. So being a good coach is really inherent to winning games. Being a teaching coach is inherent to winning games. What is the athlete's responsibility? You athletes don't get off scot-free on this one. As an athlete, if you don't understand something your coach is trying to teach you, ask a question. Let him know, hey, I don't understand. What are you trying to tell me? So many times athletes, we get worried about people thinking that we're dumb, or we get worried about our teammates looking at us as if there's something wrong with us. Ask the question. If you don't know it, there's probably several other guys on the team who also don't know. And it's okay to ask. Also, pay attention. Don't drift off. Don't wander out in space. Don't pick daisies. When coach is talking to you, when he's showing you something on the whiteboard, when he's taking you through a walkthrough, he's doing it for a reason. He is trying to teach you the game. Pay attention. It's going to matter. This is football. If you get it wrong, there's a good chance you're going to take a big shot. So an athlete's responsibility is have the passion, have the pride, have the respect for your coach to listen to what he has to say. All that said, together we are a team. Coaches, players, everybody. The coach who encourages, the coach who is there to teach, the coach who is there to reinforce and to rep, the coach who is positive is the coach who's going to be that mentor that these kids remember well later on into their lives. And after all, as coaches, that's who we want to be. We want to be that coach that our players talk about 20, 30, 40 years from now. I'm lucky that I had that mentor. I had that role model. My father was an incredible coach. He passed away several years ago. But I still to this day have kids that I played with at 10, 11, 12 years old talk about how my dad was their favorite coach of all times. And so that's what we want to be. That's why we're doing this. We are trying to give back, pay it forward, give it to the next generation. Coaching is about the act of giving. That's what it is. And by giving and teaching and repping, that's how we master coaching. And if you do that, you're going to change a lot of lives. And it's a really important thing to be, is a coach. I think for me, my coaches were every bit as important as my teachers. And so take that to heart and think about that when you go out there on the field with your kids next time. Give it back. Be important. Be a mentor. You are a football coach, and that means something special. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We got plenty of great content coming up. Plays, drills, college game film. You're going to love it. Ring the bell. Make sure you get notified every time we have new stuff coming out. Also, please give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Let me answer your questions. I appreciate you watching me here today. I appreciate you joining me. I just thought I wanted to get that message out there because it matters for young athletes. I will catch you next time right here in the Elite Athletes TV film room.